Thank you for being here, Thomas. Oh, you have your lavalier?
I could do that or that.
Well, it's up to you.
I'll try this for now. Okay, thank you, Linda. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Great to be here. Can you all hear me good or well enough and everywhere? Great, thank you for having me here. We have some luminaries in the crowd today. We have William is running his show. He has a show in Santa Maria. Very nice show, William. Thank you. And Jim Worthen's here, of course, Barry, and we have Robert Smith over here sitting, who is our possible candidate. So introducing Robert Smith, if you don't know him. Give him an applause. Come on, Robert. He's going to fight. He's going to fight against Salud. We'll see how it goes. He's stepping up. I softened up Salud for the match. He's all tenderized now, right? He's tenderized, and Robert's going to finish him off, right? That would be good. So thanks for putting the sound together, Steve, Thomas, and it's great to see everybody here. My law school friend, Amy Ma, right here. 20 years ago, we graduated law school together. 25 years old. 25 years. Look at us now. So thank you for that. Good to see you all. Levers of power. I'm going to talk about small things that we can do that turn into bigger things later on. And to make a point of it, I'm going to talk about the French Revolution for a minute, just because that was a big event. And then we're going to talk about DEI in schools, which is a big event now happening. And then the Tea Party, and then the borders. Just those three things. And we'll get it through it real quick here. Now, here's a little joke, if you guys can see that. A lot of Teslas are pretty clever people, right? Oh my God. And there's another one. They're going to put the Tesla sticker on the IRS building. Have the left burn it down for us. Okay, that was another one. Here's a little, this is strange. I don't know what this is. The robot shooting a Tesla.
Oh, wow.
He gets out, I'm fine, everything's okay. Bulletproof. Yay! Go robots. And just a quick shout out to a group in Santa Ynez. This is the Common Sense group of Santa Ynez. Check their website out, really good group. Has a lot of great data every month. They have a newsletter, so take a look at them. They gave me $5 grand, so that was nice. So, okay, so we're just 2 months into Trump's, second administration. He's already shutting down the Democrat entire financial money laundering system, right? Shutting down, doging everybody. $400 million going out to USAID, which goes back to Soros, which goes back to Democrat groups. So that's getting shut down. He's against the human trafficking and cartels, and he's removing men from humiliating women in their sports. Trump is draining the swamp, removing thousands of DC bureaucrats. So this is all great news. And he freed Greenland, right? Greenland needed to be freed. So thank goodness for that. So here's levers of power. In the day-to-day life of campaigns, news events, wars, riots, there are moments that matter, tipping points. For instance, when a war has started, people think it's a time of peace. We're all getting along. And then suddenly, boom, we have World War III. None of us are even aware that it's going to happen the day it might happen. So little things can happen that turn into big events. A quick look at the French Revolution, which began in 1789. The people of France, 30 million of them, 97% of them were peasants, and they paid all the taxes. The 3% were the nobles, the kings, the queens, the bureaucrats, and the lawyers. And they did not pay taxes. They had lots of exemptions. Imagine that. They had all the power, but the little people paid all the taxes. This sounds like the Tea Party. That's why we're going to go to the Tea Party in a minute. So the key drivers was the taxes was terrible. We had to pay it. Nobility didn't have to pay it. And also France was very broke. They kept fighting wars. They helped us on our American Revolution, but it cost them a lot of money. But they were doing it maybe not to help us so much in our revolution, but just because they wanted to fight England. And so they thought, oh, we'll help out England's enemies, us colonists. So that drove France into the poor tank. And eventually, what happened is the revolution in France, they put 30,000 people to death. The mob in France. So 30,000, and it was all nobility and all kings and queens and lawyers. So maybe it wasn't, so bad. But that was only 0.1% of the population of France. Now, in comparison to our American Civil War, we had 800,000 people killed. And out of the same number, we had about 30 million in our country at that time. So that's a 2.6% death rate. So our American Civil War was 26 times more deadly than the French Revolution. So actually, it was a lot worse, and we were killing our young people on both sides. So we're actually worse than the French Revolution, our American Civil War. So now we're going to jump forward to 2018 at City College, our college right here in Santa Barbara. In 2018, the Santa Barbara City College Board, led by activist corporate lawyer Robert Miller and ne'er-do-well board member Jonathan Abood, decided to ban the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, imagine. And remove the flags from the whole boardroom with all the parents and speakers would come. They said, no more flag, no more pledge. Well, one of our local heroes, which you guys may know, Celeste Barber, got up and did a speech. And I'll play a little bit of that speech, and we can watch it. Hope the sound is good.
I have a few welcoming remarks this evening. I know we have quite a few people here today who want to be heard. And everyone who wants to speak will have their 5 minutes, even if it takes us into the evening.
He was willing at age 20 to sacrifice his own life for country, and he would later invent a device that has now saved thousands of lives. Those are two reasons why I recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to recite it now. Because the flag is hidden, I'm holding up a flag. I would ask anyone who would like to stand with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Miller, I would respectfully ask that you bring order to this meeting.
If you could please allow the members of the board to have sufficient room to move their chairs.
So why should y'all have some?
Speaker has 1 minute and 35 seconds left.
They did this in Longbook.
The board
Hands, one nation, under God.
So you get the picture. That's what happened. I actually filmed that meeting, and I put it on my YouTube channel, and it went and it got picked up by Breitbart. That video got 9 million views in 2018. Yeah, 9 million views for like a 1 minute video, and Celeste got on to Laura Ingraham a week later. So this made national headlines from this one group of schmutzes taking the flag out of a school and saying no pledge. So
that is the Jewish conspiracy.
that's a small thing. Celeste got up there, but look what happened. 9 million views, and it turned into a bigger event than anybody could imagine, because this started off another event. There is a group called Fair Education that started here in Santa Barbara, right? Fair Education. I wish more were here. Sheridan Rosenberg was founder, along with James Fankner. And I was one of their plaintiffs. I was going to be a plaintiff, but it never happened. But they filed suit against the school, against City College. Because City College was instituting a program that was called Just Communities. And Just Communities was teaching implicit bias training. That's what they called it back then. And I call it Marxist code for words brandishing Christians and white men and rich people as oppressors. So that was their DEI. That was the start of DEI, just 2019, right after Celeste's speech. Then we had this lawsuit, and Eric Early got in there and was our attorney on the matter. And, you know, DC lawyers from Perkins Coie, they sent 6 lawyers here to Santa Barbara to fight that suit against one little Eric Early. And, you know, we scared the pants off them, and eventually they cut the program. The school cut the program. That was $1.5 million going to this program. And let me show you. This is their training chart. And I don't know if you all can see this, but here's the form of oppression right here. Sexism, it's men. And who do we oppress? Women. Right? It was perfect. And then religious oppression over here. And who's the privileged group? Christian people. And who do we target? All others. So, and this was right out of their training chart. This was taught to students at City College. They looked at this chart and said, yeah, this is right. You know, we have classicism. Wealthy people are against the working class and poor. So everything, heterosexual people are against LGBT people. So this is a classic Marxist strategy. Divide people up by race, by sexual orientation, by money, anything they can come up with, because they couldn't do it with working class and the bourgeois. So they switched to what is called cultural Marxism. So this was their training manual, and then Eric Early brought the suit, and we ended up canceling. They canceled the program. So it was a success. You know, it didn't cost us too much, and that is 2019. That led, now 5 years later from the Fair Education suit, look what happened. We have the Dear Colleague letter. And this is just this year, February 14, was that Valentine's Day?
Yeah.
Valentine's letter from the Federal Department of Education, led by Trump. And he sent this letter, and they had this letter go out to every school district in the nation. And they said, hey, guess what, school district? Your DEI must end, or you're going to get defunded. Right? And so that was a good result. 5 years later, we got a positive result by getting Trump in and getting the word out to the nation. So that's what we were talking about here. Now I have the letter here. It's probably a little small, but I have James Fankner is going to read just the first part of the letter. So it's about 1 minute long. Our Santa Barbara district stands to lose about $40 million in federal funding if they don't cut the DEI. And so we just saw what the DEI was. It was the oppression chart, men hating women, everything. So here's James Fankner, and there's other of us who spoke as well. Greg Hamill spoke, but for the interest of time, I just put on James. Here we go.
Good evening, Superintendent Maldonado and board members. On February 14th, 2025, Acting Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights, Craig Traynor, issued a Dear Colleague letter from the U.S. Department of Education. It directs schools receiving federal funds to end race-based practices and DEI indoctrination. The letter warns that noncompliance by February 28th could risk federal funding. This impacts districts like ours who receive tens of millions of dollars from the Department of Education. I ask that our board review and change all of our policies, nonprofit funding, and curriculum to ensure full compliance. Dear colleague, discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin is illegal and morally reprehensible. Accordingly, I write to clarify and reaffirm the non-discrimination obligation of schools and other entities that receive federal financial assistance from the United States Department of Education. This letter explains and reiterates existing legal requirements under Title IX of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution, and other relevant authorities. In recent years, American educational institutions have discriminated against students on the basis of race, including white and Asian students, many of whom come from
So that was James reading the letter. It's about a 3-page letter. Good letter, right? It's solid. Tells them, stop the DEI or you're going to lose. And each of us got up. Greg got up and spoke. I spoke. I kept going, you're going to lose $50 million. You better watch out or you'll be sorry. Gabe, their school board leader, did speak at the end. He said, well, we're not going to pay any attention to this.
That's right.
So we'll see what happens, right? They're going to argue, well, Trump doesn't have authority. Well, he just dissolved the Department of Education. So that was a good result. DEI led to that happening. So these little things can count up and help us in the end. A little bit about the Tea Party here. The Tea Party, was fueled by a mix of libertarian-leaning conservatives, fiscal hawks, and populists. And they felt disconnected from both parties. So here's how the Tea Party comes in. They were like the Trump people 10 years previous. They were the beginning of the Trump populist movement. And so now what's happened with the Tea Party is they've pretty much been absorbed into the Trump populist movement and helped us all win. So we say good to that, good for the Tea Party. They were ahead of their time. Here's a sign here. What's the difference between progressives, liberals, Marxists, communists, and mainstream media? The answer? The spelling. Right? The spelling is the only difference.
Very good.
Now, I'm going to do this for fun, but the connection between the French Revolution and the Tea Party, 1, both groups are being taxed to death. 2, the French nobles, the aristocrats are not paying much taxes. Well, that's kind of like our upper classes managed to not pay as much as the lower classes. And it's a little bit weak on that argument, but it was somewhat similar. Thirdly, the peasants and the American middle class they both had no representation. We were able to vote, but we'd be voting for Obama or another war hawk. It would be Obama or someone that wasn't really going to win, so they kept giving us candidates that couldn't win. Now, the other thing about the French Revolution and the Tea Party was taxes. And the Tea Party, as I recall, was taxed enough already, right? Tea Party. The French people were getting taxed to death. The Tea Party said, we're getting taxed to death. What the hell, 40%? For what? So here's a chart that I made using data from Grok. Now, if you guys are familiar with Grok, because if you're on X, X, right? Everybody knows X. That's Elon's site now, X. And he uses Grok as an AI assistant. So if you have questions, go to X, find Grok, and just type in a question. Hey, Grok, why is it this and that is happening? And Grok will give you an amazing answer in like 12 seconds. So go and get a chart. Here's our problem. In the last 20 years, let me do this. In the last 20 years, our population grew 14%. Last 20 years, 14%. In the last 20 years, our industrial output grew by 16%. In the last 20 years, our monetary base grew by 900%. They're printing way too much money. The government prints money, spends it on their problems, on their solutions, on their wars. We pay the taxes. So this is a French Revolution idea. The taxes are too much. That's why we have inflation. Because look at this, 800% with our population going up 14%. So the result of that is here, the price of gold went from $400 back then, 20 years ago, and it's at $3,000 now. This reflects what's happening here with this printing of dollars. So this is what ties us together with the French Revolution. Too much taxation. And here's a chart that came from Grok. You guys are all familiar with Grok now. Okay, so a couple more slides. Now we'll go to the border, and I'll conclude in just a minute then. The border was a third issue that didn't really occur in the French Revolution. They didn't have, border problems. Nobody wanted to go to France if they weren't French. But now we have a border problem. So in 2024, as a candidate, I went to the border as your candidate, and with a film crew, Charles, and we filmed. We filmed right there, live at the border. And here's a little video that we made. It's about a minute long.
Colin, as you know, we're here at the cartel drop-off point, which is right there behind the Trump wall. They drop them off, they walk around the edge to go over this little hill and come right up this road into America. Now, we want to stop this. We'd like to have Salud Carbajal ended, but he won't. He's totally supporting the smuggling, the human trafficking, the fentanyl importation. He says it's all fine, we can work on it later. But in the meantime, 100,000 Americans are dying a year from fentanyl, and in our district, our 24th district, we have 10,000 people a year coming in with no jobs. It's like importing 10,000 homeless people. And Salud Carbajal says, sí, no problema. Well, my Latino friends, my working friends, everybody is telling me they've had it up to here with Salud. They want controlled borders. This is what I promise you. We'll get controlled borders. I will vote to control the borders. Stop the importation of children, the sex trafficking. You can count on me. I'm Thomas Cole, running for Congress in the 24th District.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I did vote for Trump, and he closed the border. So yay, it worked, right? So every day, what we found out from the federal agents there at the border, every day white vans would drive up. And this is from the charities, Catholic charities, Jewish charities. They were given $600 million a year to drive and pick up these people here, which is nice. They need a place to go, but I mean, you look at here, there's like children, there's women, there's people from all over the world waiting just to come in, and they're not being processed. So that was what was going on. That's over now. The borders are shut, and we have to find a way to deal with all these people. And one of the parts of paying for all that immigration was that we had like $400 billion going to the USAID, Agency for International Development. Instead, they were farming that money back here to bring in aliens and support them and setting them up. So now that we have DOGE, a lot of that's going to be cut. DOGE is cutting off the supply line for a lot of the illegal immigration and a lot of the propaganda that we've been seeing. How does the left always have money? How do they always get crowds? How do they always have advertisements? The government was sending them money through USAID, and then they'd give it to Tide Society, which is George Soros, and then Soros would donate it to some Democrat group. So a lot of that is going to end. Hopefully we see a lot less propaganda coming up. A couple more slides here. Let's see if that one's too sad. Maybe that would have prevented deported criminal aliens from returning and killing Americans. Now, tragically, we have two 19-year-old Santa Barbara college students, Enzo Restelli and Jasper Vandermeulen, who were brutally murdered by a group of illegal alien gang members in Santa Barbara. They were shot dead right here in 2021. Salud has no comment. These killers barely got any time in jail either, if you consider 7 years for a double gangland first-degree murder okay, which I don't. I can't believe our judges would hand out such a light sentence. But Salud says, no problem, keep the borders open, and don't upset the illegals. And don't search for them either in our neighborhoods, it might upset them. So that was one of our commercials that we put out on YouTube ads. We had 300,000 views. and it'll only cost 10 cents each. So video is pretty powerful, and that's just why I wanted to point out is that, you know, this is a video presentation. It gets your attention, it takes you places that you know, are not at. We're just sitting here, but we're visiting all over these locations. So, so in conclusion, let's just go to the conclusion, because the activists and patriots of the last decade have been standing up, speaking out, bringing suits, starting movements, and raising awareness. And this is all culminated in a very excellent result. And that is, of course, the election of Donald J. Trump. Yeah. So amen to that. Thank you very much.